Hello, my name is David Frazier. I'm an instructor of computer science at the University of Virginia's College at Wise. And this video is going to be about some techniques and some tips maybe for converting classes to online. I teach primarily in-person classes, that's my preference, but I have taught a fair number of online courses over the years. So this video is not a complete tutorial, just maybe some ideas, maybe a starting point to make that transition, okay? So I think the first thing when we hear that our college is going to be closing and there's just a pandemic going on is to panic, to freak out, to think you can't do it, or try to do everything. So my first advice is just take a deep breath. You know how to teach, teaching's teaching. So the technology is different. There are going to be some glitches along the way, but you will figure it out. It's going to work out, okay? We also need to make sure that we're reassuring our students that it's going to be okay. It's not going to be the same class that it would have been, but it can still be a very effective class. As long as we can try to leverage the technology to our benefit. Okay. So the first starting point, I guess, is that if you've lost a week, I know our college extended spring break by a week. I think that's fairly common. You have to restructure the rest of your class. I mean, you've had snow days and other things before. It's not new. But again, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But for me, it's just focus on what can we get done with the time that we have left with 1 week less. A big concern there are tests. Tests given in an online environment are by nature open book, open internet, open friend, open everybody. There's no way to avoid that. So you have to accept it and try to make whatever evaluation techniques you're going to have that they're with that in mind. I know from personal experience when I've given online tests, telling everybody it's open book, open internet, open note, the scores have not been all 100s, which is what I would have expected. The same, more or less the same scores are going to happen no matter how you're giving the test, okay? But it does mean something like a multiple choice, not going to have as much meaning as it would in in-person class, okay? So then when it comes to the actual delivery of your course content, you have some options. You can go with a synchronous video sessions, and this is most like the regular class, and it's what I'm going to try to do. And with that, if your class means at 9 o'clock on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, then you're going to have a live session on Monday, Wednesday, Friday that will in some way mimic what you would have done in class. So that's the synchronous ones, okay? The advantage there, you get instant feedback from your students, and it's more or less a normal amount of prep. You're doing what you would normally do for class, okay? Another option is have asynchronous videos. And with an asynchronous video, basically you're going to record a lecture, record something, and put it somewhere for students to be able to download it, okay? Advantages to that, you can have the same video be viewed by multiple classes. It gives you more control over the material maybe, but you don't get that feedback. I think I'm going to do a combination of the two and divide the course. I normally have 15-minute courses three times a week. I'm going to divide it into probably a 15 or maybe 2 10-minute instructional lecture type videos, followed with about a half hour of face-to-face synchronous times, okay? But that will certainly depend on the discipline that you teach in, okay? So as far as the tips on the asynchronous video, make sure that you have a script, okay? So I don't follow the script. I don't read the script. I don't think that's a good idea, but just having an outline with some points so you won't forget. You're going to say a lot. You're going to make mistakes and have to backtrack just as if you were giving a live lecture. So no real differences there, okay? So you can also, and we'll show some examples along the way, but I'm using Zoom. Zoom is free with some restrictions, which mostly should be usable, and many schools have Zoom. Zoom allows you to share. So for example, you can have a whiteboard that you share. When you do that, that pops up. I can then, draw whatever I want and do my poor handwriting and everything else that we do. Again, just like we're in person. Okay, so you can certainly do that. You can also share a video screen. I teach computer programming a lot, so I can open up either an editor or a terminal window and show the students exactly what's happening, okay? So another option, you can have podcasts, which are asynchronous. That's voice only or audio only. Those are certainly useful. Those have the ability for people to listen to them in the car, when they're traveling, whatever. Those are easier, I think, to produce in some ways, okay? You can also do something like annotated notes or an annotated PowerPoint or just some lecture notes. Sometimes people post just notes. Okay, that's the least engaging, I think, of the materials. But again, depending on your materials and the needs of your students, you have to do what you have to do and not make yourself crazy. Okay. So there's some best practices, I think, that I've developed. And again, if you look online, there are very extensive guides. If you're teaching online courses exclusively and you knew you were going to teach them, there are all kinds of things that they have recommendations to do. I would not recommend following many of those right now. I mean, we're in crunch time here. We don't have time to plan. We don't have time to relearn everything we've ever done. So I think it's important that we move quickly and do the best that we can for our students. Okay. But I do think it's important, some of these tips that you can implement pretty easily. One thing is to have a consistent schedule. If you're going to go with something asynchronous, I'm teaching a course online now, it just happened to be. And for me, and I've set this up, every Thursday is the class day. It's the day I post new materials. It's the day that all homework is given, all homework is due. So you get into a routine. Okay, so that's important. Consistency in general is important. You should consider, and this depends on which coursework management system you're using, how important this is. You should consider putting up a to-do list for each week for your students. Okay, so on Monday or Sunday night, whenever works for you, this week you need to do this discussion board or this assignment or do this reading. Okay, so if you do that, that will make the students, they'll be able to know what's going on more. Okay. When you're doing videos, unless it's a class session, you want your videos to be 15 minutes or less if you can. The research shows that if they go much longer than that, then students tend to lose interest, which is unfortunate, but that's how students are. Okay. So you certainly want to try to keep that up when you can, but don't go crazy if you don't. And you want to look for places that you can add your personality into the class. This is less important in that your students saw you the first half of the semester, and hopefully we'll see you in again. But I think that's where the video or the audio or just the way you write things, less academic, formal, more collegial, that's the wrong word, but you get the idea, more friendly with your students. Okay, I think that can be helpful for that. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about the technology that you can use. I think it's one of the big scary factors here. Hopefully you have, a decent computer at home, or sometimes we're working from our office anyway. Most laptops I know have a video camera, so video cameras on your laptop are fine. I'm using the video right now from my iMac, and it's okay. Okay. They usually have built-in microphones. They're not as good. I happen to be using this big guy here, the Snowball from Blue, which does a good job. It's not necessary. Okay. In Zoom, you can switch back and forth. So let me, for a second here, I've now switched to the internal microphone from the computer. It's probably just fine. We'll see when we see the video. Okay. But if you have a better microphone, you can certainly use it. And if you're going to spend money, I think and your mileage may vary, but for me, I would get a microphone before I would get a camera. Okay. Again, you may have a very visually intensive course, and that may make a difference. Okay. As far as the software goes, again, I use Zoom for live streaming. You can set up an account at zoom.us. There's a free account available. If you're a K through 12 instructor, they're giving free premium accounts for everybody. I assume see their website for details. If you're a university faculty, then your university may already have a pro account that you can access. If not, you can ask them. If not, the free version is decent. I think it limits videos to 40 minutes. But beyond that, it's fine. Okay, so that certainly can be used. Zoom is relatively straightforward to use. Again, I would like to do a tutorial here, but I'm using Zoom and I can't use Zoom to video Zoom. Okay. But the basics there is that you have at the bottom, once you start a meeting, and everything's based on a meeting, you start a meeting, you can then invite students. There's an invite tab. You can also send a link. There's a way under the invite to get a link or an email you can send out to your students. But there's also a share button at the bottom, which you can use to share your screen or share the whiteboard. There's a chat button at the bottom where students can, the ones that don't want to say anything, can have a chat going on. There's the stop and start video, and then there's the mute on the far left and the stop and start video and your video options on the left as well. Okay. Sorry, the other one is stop and pause recording and then stop video as well. Okay. So again, I don't think it takes a whole lot to figure out, but you basically start a meeting, invite students in the meeting, okay? Um, Other software that could be useful that I can show you about, YouTube. If you're going to do the asynchronous videos, or you're going to, what I do, if I have a synchronous video, I record it in case there are students who can't be there. It's very likely that students are going to have trouble, their work life may change, their technology may be weird, I always like to record those sessions. I know that my college uses Moodle. Moodle does not allow for big giant video files to be uploaded. So what I've done, I have set up a YouTube account, free to do. You can then post the video to YouTube, get its link, which you link to from your course management system, okay? So I'm gonna show you real quick what this looks like. When you upload your video, you have some options here, okay? So you have over here the title, put the title whatever you want, put a description, whatever you want for that, okay? You also have the visibility here, which can be important. The visibility, if it's left public, means that anybody that searches for any search term contained in your title can see your video. That may be what you want. If you leave it unlisted, which is what I tend to do, you have to know the link, okay? So I send the link to my students, we're gonna be fine, okay? Here you can see also that the video link is listed right there. If you click on this little guy, you can copy the video link and then be able to paste it into your course management system as a link, okay? And before I got to this, you can see it here in red. This video, this little icon here is black when you normally log into YouTube. It's a black camera outline with a plus. If you click on that, it allows you to upload videos. YouTube also has the option to do live video. I haven't done that before, but that may be something you want to consider. So again, I can stop share when I'm done and bring it back to here, okay? So YouTube, again, it's free to use. Not really a big deal there, okay? One thing I will say is once you've posted a link, when you upload the video, it may take it a while to upload, it may take it a while to process. Get the link, put it into your course management system, test the link to make sure it's popping up correctly, okay? The other technology that I would recommend if you're going to do a podcast, which is audio only, is Anchor.fm. I think the Spotify people bought or produced in some way Anchor. If you go to Anchor.fm, it allows you to create your podcast right from either your phone, your tablet, or from the web interface. You can edit the audio once it's there. You can pull in canned sound effects, whatever you want to do. And then once you post it, it will host the podcast for you. It will give you an Anchor.fm URL that you can then post to your students with the episodes. It will also, if you like, distribute your podcast to Apple and Google Play and all kinds of other places, okay, which can be helpful. Okay, so hopefully this has been a useful introduction. I don't know everything. I'm not an expert, would never claim to be, but I have taught a lot and taught a lot online. So I think the focus here is just keep thinking about what your students need. Keep being aware, ask them how they're doing. It can be a scary time. Most of us have been through these things before, but it's probably the first time for our students. So be calming, try to use the technology as best you can to make the classroom experience as useful as possible, okay? And hopefully this is helpful, but if you know how to teach, go out there and teach.